I'd like to welcome everybody to the February 4th, 2019 town meeting. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, upcoming meetings. Parks and Recreation Committee meeting is on Tuesday, February the 19th at 7:30. And the next town council meeting is Monday, March 4th, 2019 at 7:30. Is there any other meetings anybody have that they're having? Anybody else? Okay. Okay. Approval of the meeting minutes for January meeting. Has everybody seen the meeting minutes for January meeting?
Mr. President,
Yes.
two
Commissioner O'Donnell.
modifications regarding the minutes. Let me get to the page, sorry. Page 2 of 84. In my comments, third line from the top, instead of outdoor comprehensive plan was outdoor recreation comprehensive plan, if that could be added. And I'm going to page 4 of 84, and I'm in the second to last line of agenda number 2, adoption of 2013 forestry plan for consideration. So I'm about here where my thumb is. And at the bottom, the comment is, the plan was distrusted as a handout. I believe the phrase might be, the plan was discussed in a handout.
Probably,
Yeah.
because, but, yeah,
Just a thought.
it's supposed to be distributed.
Distributed, okay, distributed. Okay. And those would be the only two items that leapt out at me, Mr. President.
Anybody else have any correction?
I do.
Okay.
And it's probably due to it's hard to pick up the voices sometimes. I know that she was somewhat soft-spoken, but on page 3 of 84, for public comments, second line down, it begins with Ashley Kessling at 439 West Lincoln Avenue. I believe Ashley was the daughter. Her mother, April, was also here. I believe April, if I remember correctly, did most of the speaking.
We just have to go back and pull the, hopefully she signed up for public comment and we can get her name added. Yeah, that's the difficulty, when they come up for public comment, they don't speak clearly, or they don't, sometimes we don't know how to spell their name, so, we'll go back and look at the public comment sign-up sheet, and hopefully she filled that out.
First name's April.
The only person listed on the public comment sheet was Ashley.
Okay.
And so if she didn't get up and announce her name, then that's why she's not included on the minutes.
Okay.
That's why it's important whenever anybody comes up to speak that we get everybody's name.
Other than that, I had nothing else to add.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner Ritz. Commissioner Buckman, do you have any
good.
corrections? Commissioner Blanchard? I don't have any also. I need a motion to accept the meeting minutes for January 7th meeting as amended.
I'll make a motion to accept the January 7th meeting minutes as amended.
I need motion's been made by Commissioner Buckman. Is there any second to the motion?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Ritz. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Motion carries. 5-0. Police report. The police report is in front of you. You have a copy of it. Deputy Whitehouse's mother is in the hospital. He had to go to the hospital. His mother was taken to the hospital. So, if you have any questions, you'll have to call him when it comes up to him. Town manager's report.
Good evening. This is the town manager's report for December of 2018. I'll highlight some of the key areas. Related to the streets, staff assisted the Mother Seton and the Emmitsburg Elementary School students with decorating the town Christmas tree. They repaired and replaced some street lights as well as street signs around town. Staff cleaned streets and curbs on East and West Main Street, Creamery Road, and West Lincoln Avenue. Staff cleaned up the Silo Hill median strip, painted yellow curbs on East and West Main Street. They installed the small free library station in front of 22 East Main Street and went around and put snow flags on most of the hydrants around town. Related to the parks, they trimmed and took down some trees in Memorial Park that fell into Willow Rill, and they cleaned up leaves and branches in Community and Memorial Park. For water, Rainbow Lake is still at the spillway level of 16.6 feet. Well number 4 and well number 5 are shut off to allow less gallons per minute through the plant. The lake quota is being met or exceeded. Water production, we produced an average of 244,142 gallons per day and consumed an average of 212,975 gallons per day. The difference is 11.7%, which is backwash water. During the month of December, we purchased 459,400 gallons of water from the Mount this month. Just a note that the water was shut off to town from the Mount on February 1st due to a major water leak at the campus. And we got notification that we were able to turn the water back on today. So the flow is now back on between the Mount and the town. Related to wastewater, we received about 6.9 inches of precipitation in the month of December. Currently have a surplus of 31.99 inches over the last 6 months. Wastewater treatment, we treated an average of 870,000 gallons per day and consumed only 212,975 gallons per day, which means that 75.5% of the wastewater treated this month was wild water. There were no spills of untreated sewerage in the month of December. However, we did exceed the plant's design capacity 10 times in the month of December. Trash pickup will remain Mondays in the month of February. There is a list of some of the meetings that I attended in December. Wanted to go over a couple of noteworthy items. The LG Sonic was removed from the Rainbow Lake for the winter season. The bridge contractor connected to the fire hydrant for water while the concrete was being cured. A meter was installed and they'll be billed for their water usage. The 2 water leaks were found this month on North Seton Avenue. They were fairly large leaks. The Muffin Monster at the pumping station was clogged 2 times and has appeared to burnt up. Staff continues to troubleshoot, however, it is continually being assaulted with flushable wipes, and it cannot cut through these things. They build up and they clog it. It's estimated about $30,000 to repair and replace. As you notice, we sent out a public service announcement urging people to not flush any wipes down their toilet. Even if it says flushable, it does not mean they're biodegradable, and they're going through the sewer system and they're clogging it up. Not only can it clog the town system up, but it can clog your personal system up, which costs thousands of dollars. A note, this new pumping station that's going to be proposed will have a Muffin Monster that is capable of getting through some of this stuff better than our current one. The wastewater treatment plant took in 26.976 million gallons during the month of December, with an average of 0.870 million gallons per day, which is about 1.20 million gallons over capacity for the month. Sewer relining work began on East Main Street on January 30th. They flushed and cleaned. They have a few areas of concern that are going to have to be addressed before they can continue with the relining, which I believe they're going to start in about 2 weeks. I wanted to turn your attention real quick to the parking enforcement report. As you know, it was requested that half of the money taken in when we offered free holiday parking be donated to the Lions Club fireworks display and the Emmitsburg Food Bank. And you can see that each organization received about approximately $300 from the parking proceeds for the month of December. One note that the town clerk wanted me to relay, I'm sure everybody received an email on the MML Summer Conference. If you plan on attending, she needs your hotel request immediately. We got notice from MML that they are booking up very quickly. So please get that into Ms. Shaw. And then an update to the budget scheduled meetings for fiscal year 2020, discussions with staff and the mayor, and reaching out to other town managers on how they do their budget process. This year, we'd like to start a little earlier and have a second meeting in April, which would be April 15th. And that meeting would be an initial budget presentation and overview, where we would hand out the budget, give a presentation, a PowerPoint, and then we'll move to the first meeting in May, which is May 6th, which would be your budget-only meeting, with the hopes of then approving your budget on June 3rd. So the key meetings are going to be April 15th, May 6th, and June 3rd for the budget. We're hoping that it helps streamline in here at the staff level with the budget process. And that's all I have for the manager's report.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for the town manager at this time?
For the relining of the sewers on Main Street, has there been any specific concern they've related that you've alluded to
I
here?
don't have exact locations. One place in particular has concrete that is clogging the line and so that's gonna have to be cleared out.
Right.
And then there's concerns at the end of the line that we may have to install a manhole so that they can, the relining can't just stop. It has to have somewhere to go. And there's no manhole for it to go to right now, so we're waiting to hear back if we need to do a manhole installation.
And again, to reinforce my absent-mindedness, this will help us in part reduce our wild water infiltration, is that correct?
Correct. This is going to be a large, the sewer relining is a large part of your I&I, which
Okay.
then leads to your sanitary sewer overflows
Right.
and the enormous flows at the pumping station. As you recall, we're going to want to try to do a section each year, and this is where we feel is the worst.
Okay, and the other item is it possible for us as a town to contact Jubilee and Dollar General about their flushable wipe sales? And maybe ask them to consider either not carrying those products or have some signage there that connects to our difficulties?
I know. But certainly something we can discuss and see if they're open to it, even if they don't want us not do it. Maybe they could put a sign up and says that they're not biodegradable. It actually was on the news the other day
Right.
about how not dangerous, but
Disruptive.
destructive these can be.
Since we made our public notice, has that gone down at all?
I don't think
Or
we've
is there still
noticed
enough
yet. I don't think there's been enough enough time to tell yet. I hope so.
Anybody else for town manager?
Just a general question.
Mr. Ritz?
What's the projected date for Flat Run Bridge now?
December of 2019.
No, I mean, opening the other lane, I'm sorry. Opening.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Is it really going to be
Lane
tomorrow?
shift, I should have put that in my notes. Yes, the lane shift is tomorrow.
Because the sign went away, so I
February
assumed
5th.
they were moving it.
Yes. So there'll be flagging operations during the actual lane shift, and my understanding there should be some traffic delays while they're shifting the lanes. Yeah, I should have had that in my report.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Blanchard, do you have any questions?
Nope, I'm good.
I'm good also. Okay, town planners report.
This is the town planners report for December 2018. I'm also going to highlight key areas. So I prepared an amendment to the town sign code. I'm going to start presenting that tonight. We're going to do it in 3 separate sections. Attended a forestry walk with Mike Kay and Commissioners O'Donnell and Blanchard on the 15th. For community legacy, I processed the reimbursement request for the facade rehabilitation work to 300 East Main Street in the amount of $3,657.50, and also another one for 30 West Main Street in the amount of $12,500. Both properties look awesome. We're so pleased with their work. Processed the quarterly report for the fiscal year 2017 facade grant and the quarterly report for the fiscal year 2017 Square and Sidewalk Revitalization Grant. Processed the fiscal year 2019 facade rehabilitation contract. Pleased to announce that all 50,000 was awarded. We met with the local group, and it's with the state right now in review. For MS4, I attended an all-day Maryland Department of Environment training on emerging trends in stormwater management. I started to apply for a grant from the Chesapeake Bay Trust in order to hold a storm drain marker event in 2019. At least one public outreach and education event is required per year per our MS4 permit, so I thought this would be a good way to get the town residents involved. For permits and zoning, processed and approved the following zoning permit applications: a use and occupancy, an offense. Created new permit applications in order to streamline the process and make it more resident friendly for the zoning, street and alley closure, street cut, alteration of infrastructure. For miscellaneous, I completed the Highway Performance Monitoring System report for Federal Highway Administration. This was needed in order to receive some funding. I attended a meeting with the mayor at Mount St. Mary's on the 11th regarding the proposed urgent care facility. I wrote an article titled "So You Want to Start a New Business in Town," highlighting local, state, and federal incentives for the town's newsletter. I started designing a new wayside panel for the town square kiosk and State of Maryland Visitor Center on US 15. That will be presented to the board in the next few months. Attended a meeting with Frederick County Planning Department, Healthy Adams Bicycle Pedestrian Inc., Campbell Thomas and Company Consulting, town mayor and town manager regarding future potential bicycle trails through Emmitsburg. And that's everything for the town planner's report.
Do we
Any
have
good-
oh, sorry.
Commissioner Buckman, do you have a question?
Do we have any updates on the Universal Playground that we were considering?
Yeah, we were awarded monies through Project Open Space, and we're still waiting to hear monies that are going to be hopefully awarded through Community Parks and Playground. And you'll see one of the agenda items is a budget transfer. We need to complete a budget transfer for our match of it. We're hopefully going to have a meeting with the Civitan Club here in the near future. They have offered up a grant to help fund it as well. We're close to having the total amount needed for it.
And then I have one question for the town manager. Is that okay?
Yeah,
I missed
go
my
ahead.
spot. We talked about before contacting the state police about the accidents up here at the Valero.
I have not heard from the deputies on it. I know they were going to reach out to them. I'll check with them again.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the town planner? Mr. O'Donnell?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. We received an email from you recently regarding information related to a possible development, not development, but a commercial plan. Is that public record now, or?
That's public record now.
Okay,
That
all
is.
right. So to that end, I have just sort of, just some things I want to address on the outset. If you recall, we received an email from the planner related to a filling station across the road, but a very sizable one. And I'm not so much concerned about the size necessarily, but it is very large. Some concerns I hope that we address would include issues like light pollution, appropriate signage. Okay, and of course we're talking about signage tonight, so I didn't see anything related to monument signage, but I missed it if it's there, so I'm open to be corrected there. And the other piece is the aesthetic of the facility itself in general, to make sure that perhaps that we can clearly emphasize our desire to see the architectural guidelines that we've put forward utilized, not just considered, but utilized by the company. So what appears there is a positive reflection of our community, as it's sort of it is a gateway location on your way into town. So those are some things that, I hope that the board gives consideration to when we move forward on this item.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Sure, thanks.
Appreciate that.
And then on that also, the location for where the park and ride isn't that behind the McDonald's?
No, that's actually going to be beside the Rudders. Commissioner O'Donnell was talking about commercial development that is a Rudders that's going to be coming into town in the next few years.
Where will it be located? at?
So it's at the intersection of 15, US 15, and 140. So
I
it's
see.
it's right where you're going down 15, going towards Gettysburg. That intersection, it's that first right on your right there.
Okay,
So it's going to be right behind the Rudders.
Right, where the gentleman sells his roses and
right.
produce, right back in there.
It's going to be a 24-hour round-the-clock filling station, which I think we need here. The Exxon station is overwhelmed here in town. It's so full all the time. I don't know how they keep up with their gas. It'll help with the trucking. The trucks will have a place to go to get fuel,
Instead of in town.
and I think it'll benefit Emmitsburg greatly with new commercial business.
And the town manager and I were talking today. We believe this is going to really spark development in the town. They're going to be connecting sewer over
Yeah.
there, so we believe the properties along 15 are really going to start getting developed. So
Yeah, they're going to connect the sewer under the highway to the sleeve that's there, run across. There'll be sewer actually on that side of the road, public sewer now, so that'll help out a lot too. The property can be developed now.
Just for clarity, I'm not against it. I just want to make sure we do it the right way.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
Commissioner Blanchard?
I had a question, actually, for them.
Yep.
Okay. I'm not sure if this is for the town planner or town manager, actually. With the state highway administration, with the bridge and the sidewalks and everything else, has there ever been any consideration with our meters going from coin to electronic? I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, I
Kinda
think
came-
it's been brought up
Yeah, we've talked about.
previously, and there's been discussions of the, or are they
Mhm.
I know what you're talking about, the electronic ones. The problem being is, one, they're extremely costly.
Okay.
And two, to probably make it beneficial there, you don't have to walk 4 blocks to get one, would probably have to purchase quite a few of them.
Okay. I'm just curious.
No, there has been discussion of it, and there's just been discussion of particularly at the pool parking lot, of opening that up to after, non-pool season and putting one there. So it has been things that have been discussed, it's just costly.
Costly. Got it. Okay, that's cool.
And if I could follow up with that, I actually was just researching a station, and it's over $8,000 just for one. And the gentleman said how much we charge in the meters,
It
we'll
will take
never
forever to get it back.
we'll never see a return
Okay.
because they only have lives of about 8 to 10 years. So
Okay. Cool. That works for me. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Burton?
No, it's okay. I was just gonna say, in Frederick, they don't have those. You can use your phone and you can pay your meter without those kiosks. But I'm just saying, I like the old-fashioned
Yeah.
meters. I think they're cute.
Yeah. I don't have any questions. Anybody else have any questions this time? Thank you from town planner for his report. Mr. Wilson from Frederick County, would you like to come up and give us anything you have to offer from Frederick?
The state of the Frederick address.
Don't hesitate to talk. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Good to see you. My name is Roger Wilson. For the record, Roger Wilson. I'm the Director of Government Affairs for Frederick County, and I live at 1816 Riverman's Court. Frederick, that is. So good to see everyone. I think we've survived the winter. I think the groundhog saw his
Wow, you're
shadow.
optimistic.
So I'm optimistic that we're heading fast towards spring, and that's a good thing. So I don't have too much to share this evening. I wanted to come up and just understand where you guys are, and I know you're getting ready to go into your budget season. I think pretty much all the municipalities and county government is doing the exact same thing. So your budget priorities are important. We want to make sure that you understand that the county is here. I don't know if you all have submitted any budget request to the county, but we are accepting any budget request, whether it be capital or operating. Okay, so make sure that's on your agenda. Let's see. The other thing I think it was mentioned during the town manager's presentation that MML is coming up, so we're hoping that you all will try to attend that. Some good things that are happening at MML. As you know, session is active down in Annapolis. A lot of things that we're being talked about are affecting the towns and municipalities. And one of the primary thing is 5G, small cell tower 5G. And so if you have not been approached yet, you will. Small towns are kind of the prime area where these small cell towers want to kind of operate in. And so you will be seeing that very soon. Now, the other thing that I noticed when I drove up in the parking lot, I saw the electric vehicle
Charging stations, yes.
chargers. So I don't know, was there a dedication or something that I missed? Or okay.
Not quite up and running yet.
Not-
Waiting for
okay.
Potomac Edison to make their final transformer changes.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll look for that invitation once they're up and operating. Okay, all
We
right.
hope to have them in before hovercrafts or the
Okay.
are the state of the art, but
Okay.
that's our inside
Well,
jokes.
they look good in the parking lot. So good to see everyone. If you have any questions that I can take back, the county executive sends her best wishes, and hopefully you guys are doing well up here. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you. Last year, you did assist us with $20,000 for an extension of a sidewalk from in front of Mother Seton School over to the ambulance, and we're going to be putting that in April. And I want to thank you. He did listen to us. He does listen. He listens well. He's terrific.
We listen.
Yeah, thank
terrific.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Mr. Wilson, I will throw this your way. I know that you now have a bicycle and pedestrian coordinator part-time.
I was
think
hoping you would
that's
say
great.
something about that.
Yes, sir. Very happy to see the county do that, and I'm hoping to approach that individual with a project we have in town. We have an RTP grant that is an orphan at the moment, and I'm trying to find a home for it for management purposes.
Okay.
So I'll follow up at a better time. But
Okay, very good.
thank you, sir.
Yep, thank
And
you.
I'm glad you guys made that hire.
Yes.
Not now.
You want, okay, later. Any other questions? Thank you, thank you, Mr. Wilson for coming. Now we're up to commissioner comments. Commissioner O'Donnell.
No comments, sir.
Speechless.
Yeah, what?
Sorry.
I can't believe it.
Drop
I'm
the
glad.
mic.
Commissioner Ritz,
Not this evening, thank you.
Commissioner Buckman.
Just, we have a little free library on East Main Street, but we also have one in the post office. And there's also one on a woman's front porch on West Main Street. But I want to thank the community for putting the books in there and continuing to use it. And people are posting pictures on Facebook. Their children are loving it. So go for a walk. It's getting warmer. And borrow a book and put a book in there. And we'll keep it going.
Thank you. Commissioner Blanchard.
Yes, Mr. President, just a couple things. Food bank, we had a meeting the other day. We were serving about 55 families per month on an average basis. And I was going to bring the report tonight, I forgot it. But anyways, about 55 is the number of families we're serving on a regular basis. The number seems to go up during the wintertime each year from following the last couple of years. And we also, like many food banks in the area, were willing to serve federal employees that were furloughed in the month of January. Still normal requirements as far as identification and where the people are from, and as far as that's concerned. I did get a chance to talk to see if the numbers of that went up with the number of federal employees in this area, but we're prepared to handle that and handle any sort of emergencies with people's food needs based on this area as it continues. So, and I think that's it. Yep. Okay.
Thank you. I do have one or two things. I want to thank the town staff and for all their coverage on the when we had the snow and the ice removal. They did a nice job at keeping the streets clean. Also, I want to thank the staff for on their day off coming out, leaving a restaurant, coming out and helping a lady who lost all her papers into the storm drain.
Yes.
Our town staff retrieved all her papers, her documents out of the storm drain, and didn't have, for her on a Saturday when they weren't working. So I really appreciate that. They called and asked, and Jimmy went right over and did it. And he was at a restaurant eating breakfast. Came over and did it.
you for sharing that.
Town staff does a lot nobody sees.
Yeah.
So, I appreciate what they do.
Thank you.
Other than that, I don't have anything else. Mayor comments.
Thank you, sir. The Vigilant Hose had their dinner, and I was there briefly. I had a conflict, but I think Commissioner Blanchard represented us. Just some key things here. Met with the Basilica staff on Wayside exhibits. We have applied for 4 more where we've gotten in addition to the 3 that were approved here, we've applied for 4 more in town, and we're going to try to work with the Basilica staff to coordinate tying those things together. January 28th kicked off National Catholic School Week. I was Grand Marshal. It was a wonderful event early in the morning, and really enjoyed that. Green Team. We had Hillary Martador, U.S. Green Building Council. She's a community director, national community director, development director, and she came and gave us a wonderful presentation on the certification program, which we may be looking at. Other than that, one thing about the parking meters is that parking meters are there for businesses. It's to create turnover so you can get to the business. It kind of morphs into an income-producing entity, but to pay for the servicing to make sure that the spaces are going to be open, but it's always there to impede long-term parking. And staff and I met with a realtor to list the for lease the town property at 140 South Seaton Avenue. It's a vacant house. We want to transform it into a commercial use, just the house part of it, and we met with that listing agent, and we're going to go ahead and list that, and our goal is to get a commercial tenant for that space at the thing. There we go.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any questions for the mayor?
Do you have any people interested in renting the house? Any businesses?
We have one that's coming with it, and we've talked to here our planner. He's engaged a brewery, and he also is a ice cream shop. We haven't heard back from him, but we have another one, and we're going to see what happens. Put it out in the market there and see what lends itself for development in the area. But thank you. Well, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? Commissioner O'Donnell.
Mr. Mayor, you met with David Lenhoff. May I ask who David Lenhoff
That
is?
should have been on there. That's a personal friend.
Oh, all right.
I submit them to our staff for publishing, and he's an old,
Oh,
goes back a long
Whoops.
time.
Okay, I withdraw the question, sir.
Sorry. I should have said that up
Yeah,
front.
right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Ritz?
No, I'm good.
Mr. Blanchard? I have none. On to public comment. Do you wish to, we have 2 for public comment, both for signage. Would you like to wait for our signage thing at the end of the meeting? It'll be a long wait. Gonna wait, both, okay.
Susie, did you want to sign up to speak?
I came to listen. I didn't know.
Okay, I saw you-
didn't know what was on the agenda until another neighbor informed me of it because I wasn't paying attention, so
Okay, I just wasn't sure if you were going to speak on the signage or something of that nature, so
I am here because of the signage.
you want to,
do you want to sign up?
I need to say
she came in like right when I saw you just walk in when the like buzz went, no problem. Okay. Give her a chance.
Alrighty. Administrative business? Introduction to Frederick County, oh no, he's not here. Commissioner Michael Blue is,
We'll wait to hear back if he's
Rescheduling.
gonna reschedule.
Okay, thanks.
2018 Annual Planning Commission Report.
Should be Commissioner Blanchard.
We met last Monday, right? Yeah, last Monday. I think what day it was. Last Monday, we went through basically the projects we had for the year and going through basically what's going to happen this year. If I understand correctly, 2019 is going to be a busy year, hopefully.
Yes, very.
Wasn't, let's see here. I don't actually have a, we don't have anything to hand out, do we? Anything like that tonight?
No, we have the annual report on page 14 of
Okay,
your
page 14,
packet.
sorry.
Basically, tonight we're just looking to file it, so it's just in the minutes.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean.
No official action is needed.
So if you turn to page 14, actually, in your packet, it just goes through the letter. Basically, it'll be addressed to the Maryland Department of Planning and basically what was happening here. Pretty much down to Table 1, new residential permits issued inside and outside the priority funding area. Give everyone a chance to look through that.
I have a question.
Sure, go for it.
Not on this, for his comment you made just a minute ago. There's gonna be a busy year. Is that residential also?
Commercial and residential, yes.
I like to hear that. I'm glad.
A teaser.
We've been hearing a lot of good things, so I think
Good.
the economy's starting to come back.
Mr.
Okay.
President, do you want me to go point by point, or do you just want everybody to take a look at it, or how do you want to handle this?
You can do
Okay, okay,
what
sure.
you like to do.
Sure, no problem. All right, so we're here. All right, so anyways, number 1, number of new residential permits issued inside and outside priority funding area. Table 1, new residential permits issued inside and outside. We have 6. Help me out with the PFA. Sorry.
That's inside the priority funding
inside
area.
priority area. Sorry, that makes sense. Okay. Then there's a question: is your jurisdiction scheduled to complete and submit to planning a 5-year mid-cycle comprehensive plan implementation review report this year? The answer is no. The town is subject to the requirement in 2020. 3, were there any growth-related changes, including land use changes, annexations, zoning ordinances? If yes, please list on map. And then on the following page, on page 15, it continues on, and those are the bulleted points that goes there. Sorry. There was one zoning map amendment, 600-602 East Main Street, changed from low-density residential R1 to neighborhood commercial B1. The applicant proposed changing the existing building form from a residence to a doctor's office residence. Bullet number 2, a lot addition was approved involving lots 24, 25, 26, 55, 56, and 57 of the Annan, Horner, and Company Development Plat. The plan combined lots 24, 57, 25, 56, 26, and 55. These lots are located in the low-density residential R1 zoning district. Next bullet, a subdivision was approved for the 103 Silo Hill Parkway in this general commercial B2 zoning district. The plat consisted of creating lots 3, 4, remainder north lot. The applicant proposed constructing a small 2 to 4 unit shopping center on lot 4. However, an improvement site plan has not been submitted to date. Lastly, an extension of the preliminary plat for the Emmitsburg East Industrial Park 2 was approved. The property is located in the Industrial Park zoning district. This was the 3rd extension granted by the Planning Commission to date. Then the last 3 questions are: did your jurisdiction identify any recommendations for improving the planning and development process in the jurisdiction? No. Are there any issues the planning can assist you with 2019? No. And then lastly, have all members of Planning Commission Board and Board of Appeals completed educational training course as required? Yes.
Do you need a motion to accept the planning?
It wouldn't hurt. It's just the state states that it has to be filed with the board.
Okay.
So whatever you would like to do.
I need a motion to accept the annual planning commission report to be submitted,
Be filed.
filed. I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to submit the 2018 Annual Planning Commission report as presented to be filed.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Ritz. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner O'Donnell. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any nays? Motion carries. Scheduling of trail volunteer work days.
Yes, sir. My hope is to get approval for 3 separate trail volunteer workdays. The first would be April 7th, 2019. The second would be May 5th, 2019. Those two dates are Sundays. And then June 22nd, 2019, which is a Saturday. And the goal is to get the trails in tip-top shape for Community Day and the summer. And my hope is the board will allow these days to be volunteer work days.
Do we need a motion for that? Or just a
Consent.
Same, right?
Yeah.
Consensus, yeah.
consensus of everybody? Everybody's okay with the work volunteer
Yeah,
days?
it
Yes.
sounds good to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I never heard back from,
What?
I never heard back from her.
Consent agenda. We have a Tara Veers, Citizen Advisory. You didn't hear back.
I never heard back from her, so we're gonna go and cross that out.
She doesn't want to do that tonight, to postpone it to another night.
Postpone it.
Oh, I never heard back from her, so
Oh,
we're,
period.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty.
So I would just withdraw the,
Withdraw the,
Withdraw the
the
agenda
appointment for
item.
the, Citizen Advisory Committee.
yes.
Okay, we have the Treasury Report.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Our cash activity as of January 29th, 2019, our cash balance on January 1st, 2019, $5,358,909. In deposits, we have $431,246. In withdrawals, we have $266,489. Our operating balance forward is $5,523,666. And the top 10 checks are listed here.
I have one question. Does anybody else have a question on the Treasury Report before I have mine?
No.
Yeah. I do have one, and it has to do with earlier. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned it earlier when you did your report, Kathy. You mentioned taking the solar out of the lake in December. Is that when you took it
Yes.
out?
Yes.
Do you know how much money it's saved for this year? I mean, I don't know, because it was in a full year this time.
Right. We'll have those numbers ready for you at the budget time as Mr. Tabler goes through and we start planning, and he'll start crunching all the numbers for
Okay.
you.
Alrighty. Thank you. Alrighty, Planning Commission report.
Mr. President, we pretty much summed up what we did. We were very, again, going through basically the Planning Commission annual report, which we've already looked at. And it was kind of a short meeting. We looked at it, approved it, and moved on.
Alrighty,
So,
thank you. Alrighty, that ends our reports. We will start with the main agenda items. Main agenda item number one is audit presentation.
Or for a moment, I'm coming right back.
Okay.
Keep going.
Where do I point this?
Commissioners, I just want to thank Michelle and Addie for coming up and doing the presentation this evening.
You want the slide up? You guys?
I the only helps actually to keep that one on for personally, but
Okay.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you for having us tonight. I'm Michelle Mills. I'm Audit Principal with De Leon and Stang. And with me this evening is Addie Blickenstaff. She is the in-charge accountant who worked closely with the town staff during the most recent audit cycle. We decided to change things up a little bit. I always love technical difficulties. We are required to communicate certain items with the mayor and commissioners at the completion of each audit. So we thought we would start here this evening and then follow up with some financial highlights. The first required communication is whether or not there were any changes in accounting policies. We are here to report that there were no new accounting policies adopted and existing policies did not change during fiscal year 2018. There were no transactions that were entered into by the town that lacked authoritative guidance or consensus. We encountered no difficulties in dealing with management in performing and completing our audit.
We are also required to report on any journal entries we had to make, and we are pleased to say that no material journal entries were identified in the course of our audit testing, and we had no disagreements with management that arose during our audit.
It's important before we start the audit presentation to remind everyone of the individual responsibilities. You've heard me say this year after year, but the financial statements are the responsibility of management. Our responsibility as auditors is to plan and perform the audit to make sure that they are, the financial statements are free of material misstatement and to express an opinion on those financial statements based on our audit. The town did receive an unmodified opinion on their financial statements for fiscal year 2018, unmodified meaning a clean audit report.
We audit the town in accordance with government auditing standards, and we have to consider the town's internal controls over financial reporting and compliance. In doing so, we look at any material weaknesses. A material weakness is a deficiency or combination of deficiencies in internal control such that there is a reasonable possibility that a material misstatement will not be prevented, detected, and corrected on a timely basis. We're pleased to say there are no material weaknesses in internal controls over financial reporting. We also indicated no instances of non-compliance that were required to be reported.
On the next two slides, we identified some financial highlights that we thought were important. The first bullet reports that the town's assessable base increased 1.5% and the tax rate remained the same. As of June 30, 2018, the town's proportionate share of the net pension liability is approximately $508,000, and that information is provided to you annually from the state of Maryland during their audit of their pension plan. The town had no debt borrowings in fiscal year 2018, and the principal payments that were made were $358,000. As of June 30, 2018, the town had $6.5 million in debt obligations, $305,000 of which will be due in the next 12 months.
The town committed $150,000 from the unassigned fund balance to pay for the future employee benefits upon resignation. That was in accordance with Resolution 18-01. The pool was completed during fiscal year 18 and placed in service with a cost of approximately $525,000. The dog park was also completed and placed in service with a cost of approximately $38,000. During fiscal year 18, the town collected $227,000 in tap fees related to the Seton Center and 5 new home lots, and the water fund capitalized the water line from Creamery Road to Timber Mill Run for an approximately $134,000.
Okay, now we're going to go into the financial statements and the reporting model. This is not new. You've heard me speak of this every year, that the town is required to have 2 sets of financial statements. We present them on a government-wide basis as well as at the fund level. And at the very bottom of each slide, you'll see a reference to the page number in the audit report. So if you want to go back at a later date to look at the actual financial exhibit. And this PowerPoint is available. We provided it to the staff electronically. So if you'd like a copy, just let them know. So our first slide, the first required government-wide financial statements is the statement of net position. The total assets for the town were almost $41 million, and that's comparable to fiscal year 2017. Governmental activities comprised 16% of the total at just under $6.6 million, and our business type activities had 34.4 million. On the next slide, it kind of breaks down the assets and shows you the significant assets. Again, we're required to report by governmental activities versus our business type activities. On the left-hand side, the governmental activities, we had cash and cash equivalents of about 2.2 million, and our capital assets were just over 4 million. Again, the total assets on governmental activities was about 6.6 million. On the right-hand side, where you see the business type activities, you'll see that the cash and cash equivalents was about 5.2 million, and the capital assets were 28.7 million, for a total of 34.3.
In contrast to the assets, we now talk about total liabilities. For the town-wide, it was about 7.7 million, which is a 3.5% decrease from fiscal year 17. The governmental activities comprise approximately 953,000 of that, and the business type activities were approximately 6.8 million, or 88% of the total. Again, highlighting some significant liabilities for both the governmental and business type activities. Long-term debt of the governmental activities was approximately 227,000. The net pension liability was about 294,000, of the total 953,000. For business type activities, long-term debt was 6.3 million, which you can see comprises 93% of the total, and the net pension liability was approximately 213,000.
This next slide highlights something that's unique to municipalities, and the terminology is deferred inflows and outflows of resources. So we just like to remind you, because this is not something that you traditionally see when you're looking at the fund level statements, or not necessarily something that the town is accounting for except on an annual basis. So again, a deferred outflow is a consumption of net assets by the government that is applicable to a future reporting period. So that's kind of like a prepaid item. All of your deferred outflows for fiscal year 2018 was related to the pension. For governmental activities, it was about 73,000. For business type activities, it was about 53,000. A deferred inflow of resources is kind of the opposite. It's an acquisition of net assets by the government that is applicable to a future reporting period. In this case, we have a couple things that met that criteria. We had some pension-related items, unearned revenue, and your benefit assessments. For governmental activities, it was about 191,000, and for our business type activities, it was approximately 90,000. Now, when you're looking at the financial statements, just to kind of look at it mathematically, you're taking your assets plus your deferred inflows, subtracting your liabilities and your deferred inflows, and you get your net position. The governmental activities net position was about 5.5 million, and your business type activities net position was about 27.5 million. And this next slide takes that same information and just puts it in the form of a pie chart. So it shows you the total net position for the town being 33 million, where the governmental activities comprised 17% of that total, and the business type activities was 83% of that total. In the statement of net position, when we look at your net position, we're required to break it down into various categories. And so you'll see that the largest amount is sitting in capital assets net of related debt. For governmental activities, that was about 3.8 million. We had restricted net position of 212,000, and the remaining balance is unrestricted at almost 1.5. On the business type activities, our capital assets net of related debt was about 22.4 million. Our restricted net position was over 1.1 million, and our unrestricted was the remaining balance of about 3.9.
The next required statement is the statement of activities. This shows the expenses and the program revenues and general revenues of the governmental activities and business type activities. You can see for governmental activities, total expenses were about 1.6 million. Charges for services comprised 273,000. The town had operating grants and contributions of approximately $115,000 and capital grants and contributions of $210,000. The remaining of the revenues are considered general revenues such as taxes and income, and that is about $1.5 million. For business type activities, total expenses were about $1.9 million. Charges for services were approximately $1.7 million. There are no capital grants and contributions, and general revenues were about $128,000. The change in net position government-wide was a positive $269,000. Governmental activities had a $389,000 positive change, and business type activities had an approximate $120,000 negative change.
Now, remember, when we talk about government-wide financial statements, that's when we're reporting the activities like a commercial business. When we start looking at the fund-level financial statements, we have a different reporting model. So the next several slides are looking at things from a fund-level perspective. We're looking at the governmental fund types, which includes the general fund and the capital projects fund. We had total assets of about $2.5 million. Our liabilities were $285,000. Our deferred inflows were approximately $112,000, and the difference between the assets, liabilities, and deferred inflows has different terminology. We're talking about fund balance and not net position, and that was just about $2.1 million.
We have to break that fund balance down into 5 required components: non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned. For the governmental funds, which again is the general and capital projects fund, there is about $212,000 of restricted, $150,000 of committed fund balance, $469,000 of assigned, and the residual amount is about $1.2 million in unassigned, for the total fund balance of just under $2.1 million. The total revenues for the governmental funds were about $2 million. Total expenditures were about $2.1 million, to get a deficiency of revenues over expenditures of about $59,000.
This next slide gives you a quick snapshot of some of the reconciling items when you're looking at the two sets of financial statements, and we think this is always helpful to you just as a quick refresher. When we're talking about the issuance of debt and we're looking at fund-level financial statements, that would be an other financing source. However, when you're looking at when you're looking at it from a government-wide perspective, it's a liability. When we are paying principal on our debt, it's an expenditure for governmental funds, and it's a reduction of a liability when we're looking at it from a government-wide perspective. When we are acquiring assets or purchasing assets, it's an expenditure when we're looking at it from a fund level, and it's an asset when we're looking at it government-wide. When it comes to depreciation, we do not report it at the fund level. However, we are required to report it as an operating expense government-wide. And pension-related items, the net pension liability and the deferred inflows and outflows do not show up on your governmental fund financial statements, but are required on the government-wide presentation. So this next slide gives you the snapshot. As Addie mentioned, there was a deficiency of revenues over expenditures of about $59,000 when you looked at it from a fund level perspective. However, when we presented the government-wide, we said the change in net position was a positive $390,000, and here are the significant items that are the reconciling items. The first one is the debt service expenditures, which would be your principal payments, were about $38,000. Depreciation expense as it pertained to governmental assets was about $200,000. There was a loss on disposition of some assets of about $13,000. Capital outlay was rather significant for fiscal year 2018 of about $624,000. There was a change in compensated absences of $18,000, and the net pension adjustment for fiscal year 2018 was about $18,000.
Quick question. Can we go back to that slide for a second?
Yeah, sure.
I always worry I'm asking the same question. I'm not. This is a new one. On fourth item, loss on disposition of assets. Could you clarify that or rephrase that in another way? Because honestly, I'm not sure what the meaning is there.
Okay, so there were some assets that were on the books that were disposed of that
Okay.
had a carrying value, and if we got proceeds for them, the proceeds were less than the carrying value of that asset,
Okay,
therefore resulted in a loss.
terrific. Thank you.
The next slide, I'm not going to go into detail, but again, it's another reconciling sheet for you. It goes from reporting fund balance of just over $2 million to the net position of 5.5, and again, accounts for all of the reconciling items that we went over previously, the largest, of course, being your property and equipment at just over $4 million.
We now touch on the proprietary funds, the enterprise funds. The town has two enterprise funds, both the water and the sewer fund. The operating revenues and expenses for the water fund, you could see had a 26.5% increase from fiscal year 17. It went from approximately 488,000 to about 617,000. Our operating expenses also increased at about 6.5%. However, causing our operating loss in fiscal year 17 of approximately 90,000 to now be an operating income of about $1,500. For the sewer fund, our operating revenues increased 17.7%. They went from 911,000 to approximately 1 million. Our operating expenses had a slight decrease of 5.4%, causing our loss to lessen from 320,000 to only 91,000 for the sewer fund.
This next slide highlights some required supplemental information. We are required to show the original budget, the final budget, along with the actual and a variance. You'll see that the total revenues for the general fund were originally budgeted at just over 1.7 million. There were some minor budget amendments during the year. The actual revenues ended up coming in at almost 1.9 million, and there was a positive variance of about 109,000. The expenditures had original budget of just over 1.5 million. There were no budget modifications made to the expenditure line. The actual expenses came in less at just under 1.5 million with a positive variance of about 44,000. Transfers to the capital project fund were initially approved at 218,000, and then after a budget modification increased to just over 351,000. The net change in fund balance for fiscal year 2018 was a positive 19,187. And I think that concludes our highlights.
Do I have questions? Commissioner O'Donnell?
Not at this time.
Commissioner Ritz?
Not at this time.
Commissioner Buckland? Commissioner Blanchard?
Nope, I'm good.
I don't have any at this time. Also, thank you for your presentation.
From Middleton,
Mr. Mayor, do you have a question?
I'm good.
You're good?
I did have a question.
Thank you for your presentation.
Again, thank you for having us, and if there would be any questions at a later time, just funnel them through Cole, and we'd be glad to answer them for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cole.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Addie.
1,500.
Joe, thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, Cole.
Thank you, Cole. Alrighty, continuing with the agenda. Agenda item number 2, approval of the engineering firm to complete the hydraulic and analysis for the Rainbow Lake Dam.
Just give me 1 second.
Staff?
Yes. If you recall, in August 28th, roughly, of 2018, we received notification from MDE that we were required to retain the services of a qualified engineer to perform an evaluation of the dam and submit the results of the hydrologic and hydraulic analysis, as well as a dam break analysis, to MDE no later than May 1st of 2019. So staff prepared an RFP looking for an engineering firm to complete both analysis as well as the dam break. The RFP was published by the town on October 22nd. There was a mandatory site visit for all engineers on November 6th or Wednesday, November 7th. Bids were due December 7th. They were opened by staff on December 17th. We requested that the projected completion date be Monday, April 1st, 2019, because along with this, we do have to update our emergency action plan for the dam. Just a little bit about the RFP that was put on the town's website. It was on